Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the February 29, 2024 meeting of the Falmouth Zoning Board of Appeals. If I could ask everyone to take a moment and please silence their cell phone. I'd like to introduce the members of the board, starting at the far right. The audience's far left is Jerry Patamus. He's an associate member. Next is Frank Duffy, who is a full voting member. Mark Finneran, who is a full voting member. My name is James Morse. I'm currently serving as the chair. Suzanne Murphy, who is our clerk. Scott Peterson, who is our vice chairman. And Tony Petrucci, who is an associate member. We're also joined this evening by Noreen Stockman, the zoning administrator, and Ashley DeMello, who is our recording secretary. The Zoning Board of Appeals is charged with applying the state zoning statutes as well as the town's zoning bylaws in reviewing and voting on applications. All decisions are made through the public hearing process. Our goal is to hear testimony from the applicants and the public to allow for a full and fair discussion of the project prior to rendering a decision. To begin each hearing, the clerk will read the public announcement for the hearing and read pertinent information from the file. The applicant or the applicant's representative will then have 15 minutes to make a presentation. Time may be extended by vote of the board. The board will then question the applicant. Next, the public will be invited to comment. Public comment should be directed only at the project and can include an opinion in favor or opposition or to ask a question about the project. Comments should be limited to 2 minutes. The chair will limit discussion in the interest of time if comments become repetitive. All members of the public wishing to speak should come to the podium, wait to be recognized by the chair. Please state your name and address and speak into the microphone. It does not amplify your voice, but is provided for the benefit of FCTV viewers. The board may continue the hearing to a future date and time. Otherwise, when the board is satisfied that enough information has been presented to make a decision, the hearing will be closed. Once a hearing is closed, no more testimony will be taken. The board shall then discuss the proposal amongst themselves, make a key motion to approve or deny the application. Motion will be followed by a summary of key findings and conditions. The affirmative vote of 4 members, a supermajority, is required for the approval of special permits and variances. A split vote of 3 to 2 is a failure to carry and would result in a denial. Any zoning board of appeals decision may be appealed as provided for in Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 17. The first item on tonight's agenda, and I apologize since everyone is here and comfortable, is an executive session. So pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, as chair, I'm making a preliminary determination of the need for executive session to discuss with town council, discuss litigation, and an agreement to judgment. Is there a motion to go into executive session, coming back into public session, open session afterwards?
So moved.
Mr. Finneran, moved, seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Jerry Patamas, aye.
Duffy, aye.
Finneran, aye.
Morse, aye.
Murphy, aye.
Peterson, aye.
Petrucci, aye.
All right, we are going into executive session with town council. I would just ask if everyone in the audience would please step outside. We will try to make this brief. Back in open session. To the public, thank you for your patience. Try to make that as quick as possible. The next thing we have on the agenda this evening is public comment. This public comment is for anything that is not specifically on tonight's agenda. Does any member of the public wish to make a public comment for something that is not on tonight's agenda? Next up, we're going to take a few things out of order. 09223 Kim, 0 Stowe Street, Lot 22, T-Ticket, appeal the building commissioner's determination. We have a request in writing from the attorney for a continuance to May 2nd. Is there a motion to continue this matter to May 2nd?
Motion for May 2nd?
Give that to Scott, second by Suzanne. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Continued into May 2nd. Pass that down, sign continuance. And there was some requests earlier to take something out of order. Are there any other hearings out of order?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to move down to the new hearings first, if at all possible, if the board agrees. And then we can do 545 Main at the end of the evening.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Move to new hearings. Next up will be 00424 Parmentier, 18 Sipawicet Road, Falmouth, requesting a special permit to allow a pool in the front yard located more than 50 feet from the front property line.
We have Nancy L. Parmentier, 18 Sipawissa Road, Falmouth, Mass. Applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Section 240-11.4A1, parentheses, of the Code of Falmouth to allow a pool in the front yard located more than 50 feet from the property line. The subject property is 18 Sipawissa Road. And from town boards, we have the assessors have no comment. Planning board has no comment. Engineering. This application was reviewed for impacts to public rights-of-way and public utilities. Sipawissa Road is a public right-of-way in this area. No alterations are proposed to the right-of-way. Any changes within the right-of-way would require filing a permit with the engineering division. 2, any connections or alterations to public utilities will require permission from the appropriate town department. And 3, this project must not direct any stormwater runoff to public property, abutters, or public rights-of-way. That was engineering. Building had no comment. Health had no comment. Fire department has no comment. We do have a comment from, I think it's Conservation Commission. The attached referral, I think they have filed, is that? They have not filed, okay. They do not need to file. No comment, okay, sorry. And that's all I have from here. And one letter of just comments
From the abutter.
from the abutter.
Called a letter of concern.
Concern.
For the applicant, good evening.
Good evening, Nancy Parmentier, 18 Sipawissa. So the proposal is to put a pool that's halfway in the front yard. The house is set very far back from the road. The pool would be 85 feet back from the frontage line. It's really I thought a lot about the different options. The south side of the yard is wetland setbacks, so that was not going to be an option. The east side of the yard is driveway and septic, not an option. I could have done it on the west side, rotated the pool facing west and not gone forward of the house, but that would have really been impinging on the neighbor's space, feeling like it was over them, and it would have taken, I would have taken out the whole planted buffer I've been using to give us a visual screen. By doing that, we would have removed that. It would not have provided enough space, and so then the pool would become visible from the neighbors in the street, potentially. So right now, the way the pool is sited, already there's a three-quarters of a hedge in place. That will be continued. That will be a 7-foot hedge. The grade will be brought up, and the neighbors will not see the pool. They will not see us standing at the pool. I want privacy as much as they do. The pool is full for laps, but thin. It's 12 feet. It's a lap pool. Keeping it very shallow. I want to be as responsible as I can about heating it. We're using a heat pump to heat it, and I want to get solar heat units. That we have a greenhouse that is 90 degrees on a sunny day in the wintertime. It was up to 100 the other day. So I want to have the pool volume small so that we can keep it warm using just the heat pump and solar water heaters. What else can I tell you? Lot coverage. Right now, our current lot coverage is very small. It's 4%, way under the maximum. This would bring it up to 5.5% for the built structures. The house itself has a 786-foot footprint. It's a modest house. It is by far the smallest house in the neighborhood on a fairly big piece of property. So we're really keeping the quality of the property. I'm a landscape architect. I've registered, licensed, practiced in Massachusetts for 20-odd years. So the visuals, the aesthetics of this is very important to me. I didn't have time to print out a lot of these, but you can pass them along. This is a look, the top one is a pool I designed in West Falmouth for a client. The other two are precedent images. Just to tell you, it's a very minimal, clean.
I don't think.
You want to go back over to the
I'm sorry,
podium?
it's the idea, maybe they can hold it, we can pass it around. It's a very minimal, clean pool.
You need to speak into the microphone so they can hear you on TV.
It's a very minimal pool. The coping, there's only one small deck terrace area at the head of the pool. The rest is 24-inch coping set in lawn, and that's it. Just clean, no big terraces all around. This, I just want to show you, is from, I love the Falmouth GIS site. That shows our property. The house is the smallest house around. And the percentage of lot coverage is one of the lowest in the neighborhood. What else can I tell you? That's all I can think of at the moment. In terms of runoff, the pool, if we have to drain part of it, if we have to drain it, we can run it off to the north and the northeast. That's the most extensive part of the property. It will not be going into any abutting properties. It will not be going down to the road. As far as drainage on the site to the neighbors to the west, actually both sides, I've improved it. The house used to drain from our house, was just continuous slope to the west, so our whole lawn in the top area went down towards the neighbors. I leveled that off and I pitched it, so now that drains north and south, and I've actually diminished the runoff down there. In terms of planting or screening, I've planted the site heavily, will continue to do so. One of the reasons I want to do the terracing, there's a boulder wall to bring up the grade a little, and then there's a 4-foot 9-inch proposed fieldstone wall. Is if we get a terraced platforms, it's much better for control of runoff, and it's much better for plantings, and it will allow us to get a visual screen in immediately. Plantings, I know the neighbors brought it up. This is a list of all the plants that I've put on the property since 2007. That's what I do. Haven't added onto the house. I've graded the property and planted it. I think that's all I can think of.
Questions from the board? Start with you, Tony.
I think my only question is, how are you going to do it? You're going to have an engineered wall, it looks like,
Yep,
that's going to go around the back of it, going to go from east around to the north.
correct.
All right, and that's going to be an engineered plan.
Yep, I've got a structural reviewing all the drawings now.
All right, I have no other questions.
Okay, and as far as implementation, I've got Jonathan Charles here with Francisco Tavares. They're gonna be putting the boulders and the walls in place. And we've got a whole strategy, and perhaps John wants to speak of that. It's all going on virgin grade. I know there was a comments about it going on soil. That is not the case. Do you want to talk about the procedure of placing those boulders? John is the president of Francisco Tavares.
Good evening, my name is Jonathan Searles, like Nancy stated, with Francisco Tavares. We'll be implementing the proposed plan. Some of the questions Nancy had already started to get into. Placement of the boulders, we'll be using a large excavator with a hydraulic thumb, so there'll be constant pressure on these boulders, not just in a sling will they be moving around. We'll be digging down and setting them on a compacted base with a filter cloth behind it to help retain any of the sediment from washing through them. We'll be battering them back, so as we step the bottom courses below grade as a toe stone, we'll step each boulder back as we go.
It's just two levels.
Yeah, sorry, as we build back up. Are there any questions I guess I should answer for you guys versus running through the whole process? Or?
From a height, you're stating that it's about 5 to 5.5 feet?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been speccing 2 levels of half-ton boulders, and they run about 25 to 30 inches in diameter. So 1 row, I mean, these are not massive boulders.
Right.
1 row and then another one back. We could do it without it and just have the slopes be that much steeper, and I can put down erosion cloth and plant really steep slopes.
No, that's fine. I think you did a very good job in responding to the abutters' concerns, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
This was the critical component that they had an issue with, so I appreciate the information. No further questions.
Suzanne?
My question is when you drain the pool, you're gonna have it go northeast, you said?
I can run it out to the east part. Everything slopes down from the high part, so I can run it that whole big lawn under the cedar grove towards the driveway. And then down below, there's a level area there, and then there's actually a low point down there. So the largest portion of the property is all that way, and it's all down from the pool.
That's what I'm concerned about. If you drain, there's a vernal pool at the bottom.
That's to the south. Won't go that direction.
Well, that's, okay, water's gonna go that way out of this pool
If
today.
it leaks.
Right. And so you're gonna drain it and make it go a different direction?
If we have to drain it, yes, then that's how it's done. You control it. You pump it, you have hoses, you control which way it goes.
And whose yard will that water go on?
Who's what?
Yard.
Mine. Here, perhaps this will make it easier to visualize.
I have this if you wanna use it.
So, this is the pool. It comes down here, down here, down here. This is all down from the pool. This is lower.
Yep.
I've got planting beds everywhere. I've got some native wetland tolerant plants here. There's plenty of room to, so
Okay.
Anything else?
No, thanks.
Nothing other than, I'm impressed with the work you did, and obviously you're not afraid to get your hands dirty.
No,
And continued good luck. It's really a beautiful
thank you.
spot.
Thank you.
You said if you have to drain this pool, how often do you think you will have to drain it?
From my understanding, not very often, that you take down a certain amount of water, like a foot of water in the winter, but you don't. You
Okay.
just drop it a little.
This is more,
But if, in 10 years, we had to replace the liner, for instance,
it's not going to be a regular event.
no,
Okay, thank you.
water stays in it.
Gary?
Probably the building department. I think we have a code that says you can't discharge water from a swimming pool off your property. I'm just making
No,
a
it won't go off the
statement that
property.
we'll probably put in as a condition.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't, yeah.
The other thing is, I'm confused about your note. 5, it says pool patio, gives the dimensions. Are you saying that's the equivalent of 2 parking spaces?
Is that on this,
BSS.
no, I think it's because when they do, there's 2 ways they do lot coverage. Sorry, I'm very dry. One is just structures, and the other is structures and all pavement and driving. So they were saying, in the first one, they just do the pool, the house, the sheds. The second one, they add in the pool terrace, the parking areas, and the driveway.
Parking areas for what?
The car, in our driveway.
Oh, in the drought, okay, all right.
Yeah, the existing ones.
Sorry.
That's okay.
What's proposed is 6.9%. They go to, well, not even close to the.
No, I really didn't understand the note where it was placed.
Gotcha. Any other questions to the board?
No.
Public comment? Sir?
Thank you, John.
So my name is Carl Matlin. I live at 16 Sippowisset Road. I'm a butter, and I'm mean, the short statement is I have no problem with this. Our property is sort of triangular shape and actually intersects the vernal pool below the house. If I thought that this project would impact that, I wouldn't be in favor of it. I'm actually quite happy that she's doing some things for erosion control, because on our property, with these huge rain deluges, we've noticed and had to do some things to prevent erosion in the direction of the wetland below. So this is a big improvement.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comments? Discussion.
Good project.
Motion close.
A motion to close by Mr. Finneran. Is there a second? That's Suzanne. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing is closed. No additional testimony will be taken. How would the board like to proceed?
Motion to approve, condition.
Motion approved with conditions. Give it to Scott. Is there a second? Second. Second to Suzanne. Findings?
Findings. We have, it's in an RB district. It's a 42,023 square foot lot. Existing coverage, as the applicant said, is 3.87 with just structure. And with everything, it's 4.65. Proposed will be 5.23 over 6.42. We had the one letter. One question I did have for Noreen, on this form, it says historic district, but it didn't say that in the file, on the application, but this plan does?
I think so.
I believe so.
This
There
one
wasn't, no, I understand, there wasn't a referral, though.
Yeah, I
so-
didn't see anything in the file itself.
It may be just part of the
Like a-
front of the properties.
Okay,
within.
I just wanted to, I just saw it on here. I have no other special permits. The 40 by 12 pool on a public road. I think that's all I have.
Concom, it determined non-determination.
Yep.
Placement of the pool is primarily due to topography reasons and lot shape, existing structure. One letter of concern, testimony, I think, has addressed the majority of the concerns related to possible runoff, soil erosion, or discharge. Applicant indicates that in the event of drainage, they can pump the water to the north or northeast away from the vernal pool. One abutter spoke in support. Any other findings?
That it would not leave the property. when they pump
Discharge
the
would
pool.
not leave the property.
More than 50 feet from the front property line?
Yep. Additional testimony of extensive mitigation of plantings, so on. Any other findings? Conditions. Follow the town's soil erosion and sediment control plans, engineering comments per plans,
Work hours.
work hours, comply with any building permit regulations concerning the retaining wall, or engineering comments concerning the retaining wall.
Would we add in, fencing around, I don't think you can put a
Part of the
pool
building
in.
permit.
Okay,
Plan
Comply
calls
with
for a
the
non-climbable
state-
fence.
Right.
okay.
Drainage to stay on the property when they drain the pool.
Yep, could be conditioned.
Or they're not going to drain the pool, so.
Any other conditions?
So I think
Maureen?
just following the town's soil erosion and sediment control standard conditions, just to ensure that there's no soil that slides.
Anything else? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That is a vote.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much. Next, we have 00524 Vasaletti, 22 Overy Drive, North Falmouth, requesting a special permit to allow a detached garage exceeding 900 square feet in size.
We have Michael Vasalotti, 22 Overy Drive, East Falmouth. Yeah, applied to the zoning board of appeals. It's not in East Falmouth. It
North
says that
Falmouth.
on here.
The
Typo.
application here.
Applied to the zoning board of appeals for a special permit pursuant to section 246-6B of the Code of Falmouth to allow a detached garage exceeding 900 square feet in size. Subject property is 22 Overy Drive, North Falmouth. Let's see what we have. From town boards, nothing from planning, nothing from the assessors. The building department says per plans. Fire department, no comment. Health, no comment. And we have engineering. This application was reviewed for impacts to public rights-of-way and public utilities. Overy Drive is a public right-of-way in this area. No alterations are proposed to the right-of-way. Any changes within the right-of-way will require filing a permit with the engineering division. 2, any connections or alterations to public utilities will require permission from the appropriate town department. 3, the project must not direct stormwater runoff to public property, abutters, or public rights-of-way. 4, we recommend that the board add a condition that requires the addition of dry wells, rain garden, or other stormwater infiltration measures, or stormwater harvesting measures such as rain barrels for the new roof area at a minimum. 5, where this is a small lot and the proposed work is close to abutting properties with the proposed work area location and existing fences, it appears that erosion and sedimentation should not be an issue with normal construction practices. However, the contractor should be held responsible for implementing erosion and sediment controls if conditions change. We recommend the following condition. Quotations, construction activity shall not cause erosion to or sedimentation into the abutting properties or town right-of-way. That was engineering. We have Concom, no comment, and no letters.
With the applicant, good evening.
Good evening. My name's Chuck Valenza. I'm the contractor. This is Mr. Vassilotti, the owner. We're here to ask for a special permit because it's above the 900 square feet. The project will be just purely for storage. It's a garage. It will be unheated. There'll be no plumbing to the project. There'll be no water. There's no way it could become a habitable space. It's a single-story structure. There'll be no second floor, and there's absolutely minimal interruption to the grade or, the topography. It's just a basic garage. It falls within all the requirements for setbacks and below the required lot coverage for the zoning. Any questions that anybody would?
Jerry, start with you.
No, I think you said no plumbing and heating. I'm assuming you're gonna have electricity in there?
Electricity only, correct. Yep.
Anything else?
That's it.
Frank?
No.
Mark?
Just, is that a Thunderbird under that tarp?
That's why the new garage.
It's a 66
Huh?
convertible.
Yeah.
There's 3 of them,
Huh? You have 3 of them?
a 56 and a 2002.
Nice.
Mark
else?
needs a site
No,
visit.
that's all I want. I can tell just by rubbing the back tail
That's why
lights.
that container's there. Container will go as soon as the garage is.
Scott?
Just to confirm, ridge height's 21 feet 9 inches.
I believe so, yeah. I'll pull out the plans to double check. I don't want to put my foot
Yeah, I did write that down.
It's the site plan. I don't have the building plan, but I know it was, yeah.
That's it? Okay.
What did you say,
No,
Lou?
good project. There's plenty of toys to put in there, so good luck.
Tony?
A good project. I think it fits in perfectly.
Can I make one comment that I did forget? We were speaking, we talked to engineering, we knew they wanted dry wells, so we just received the new plans from Cape and Islands, showing the dry wells. I can drop some off tomorrow, but I'm gonna download them in the morning, so they'll be on Gary's website. Okay.
We can condition that.
Public comment? Yeah, certainly.
Lori Murphy, 20 Overy Drive. My question just is about any of the trees and anything in that area, if anything's going to be removed or on the property.
I can show you the site plan, there's only one that's gonna be removed, that's in the back. Actually, this one here is easier to open up. So there's only one, it's a small one right there, that tiny one. Nothing's being touched out here. We're staying back, and that
And then
shows
all in
erosion.
here.
This is all erosion control that we'll be putting in. This is not even gonna get touched.
Okay,
So we're not affecting the topography of the lot.
okay.
Anything else, ma'am? Okay. Any other public comment? Board discussion? Frank?
None needed.
All right. How would the board like to proceed?
Motion to close.
Motion to close by Suzanne. Is there a second?
Second.
Is that Mark? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing is closed. No more testimony. How would the board like to proceed?
Motion to approve with conditions.
Motion to approve with conditions. Second, Suzanne. Findings.
Findings, let's see, it's in an RB zone. It's a 20,023 square foot lot. Existing now in structures is 11.5 with everything, 23.4 proposed, 16.9 over 34.4. Like Scott said, it's 21.9 in height. It's a,
246.6.
thank you, no letters. I think that's it that I have.
No habitable space.
Yeah.
Testimony from applicant, no water or heat. They will have electricity. There's no bedroom increase. The lot is suitable in size for what's proposed. One question at the hearing about vegetation removal.
One tree.
One tree, testimony is one tree being removed.
You're submitting something
opposition?
tomorrow.
Did you get the dry wells?
Yes, testimony is revised plans to include dry wells will be submitted to, with the building permit.
That under conditions.
We'll condition that, too. Any other findings?
No.
Conditions?
The new plans.
Per revised plans, including dry wells, implement the town's erosion and sediment control standards, no plumbing or habitable space, garage is to remain unheated, standard hours of work. Anything else?
That's good.
Noreen, anything else?
All good.
All those in favor to approve, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That is a vote. Thank you very much. Next up, we have 00624 Next Grid, Taria LLC, 590 Thomas B. Landers Road, West Falmouth. Special permit to allow a solar photovoltaic array, carports, battery energy storage systems, and associated electrical equipment.
We have Next Grid, Taria LLC, 177 Huntington Ave, Suite 1703, in Boston, Mass. Apply to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Section 240-51C2 of the Code of Falmouth to allow solar photovoltaic array carports, battery energy storage systems, and associated electrical equipment. Subject property is on 590 Thomas B. Landers, I always call it Tommy B., Thomas B. Landers Road, West Falmouth. Let's see what we have from boards. Planning, no comment. Assessors, no comment. Fire Department, no comment. Engineering. This application was reviewed for impacts to public rights-of-way, public utilities. Technology Park Drive is a public right-of-way in this area. No alterations are proposed to the right-of-way. Any changes within the right-of-way will require filing a permit with the engineering division. 2, any connections or alterations to public utilities will require permission from the appropriate town department. This project must not direct any stormwater runoff to public property, abutters, or public rights-of-way. 4, erosion controls are shown on the plan and appear to be adequate to protect abutting properties and the public right-of-way. We recommend the following condition be approved in any approval. Quotations, construction of this project shall follow the town's soil erosion and sediment control standard conditions. Document can be found in the engineering division page of the town's website. references to the Department of Public Works Engineering Division shall be replaced with Zoning Board of Appeals, who will be the permitting authority for this project. And that was engineering, conservation is nothing, and that's no letters. And that's what we have.
Good evening for the applicant.
Good evening. My name's Melinda Costello. I'm with Weston and Sampson Engineers, civil engineer representing NextGrid, the applicant. The project is, as you just described, it's at the existing Steamship Authority parking lot off of Thomas B. Landers Road. They are proposing to install 14 carport canopies and 95 vehicle charging stations. With the project, there are 3 separate equipment pad areas proposed with accessory equipment and battery storage. The total output is proposed to be 3.5 megawatts AC with 2.5 megawatt, 5 megawatt hour battery storage, a battery energy storage system. We're here in front of you tonight to request a special permit under zoning bylaw section 240-51C2. And I will leave it at that and let you ask any questions.
Tony?
This is the light industrial A where this is not allowed.
Correct.
So you're proposing that under 245-1C2, that it can be allowed based on the fact that it resembles in its neighborhood impacts a use allowed by right or by special permit in that zoning district, those next door to it, in the L, light industrial B and C, where these exist. So you're asking the board just to allow it because of that.
Correct. Yes.
40A Section 3, as amended a number of years ago, the legislature carved out a very specific exemption that we cannot deny solar electric projects unless, except for reasons involving health or safety. Regardless of what our zoning law is outdated. We have no ability to say no to this project.
I like it.
Absent a showing of health or safety. We haven't had a referral about one of those. That was the first thing when I'm going, wait a minute, our use table says you can't do this in a light, despite being in a light industrial. I'm like, well, what better place to put a photo array like this?
I think it's great.
Scott?
Just clarification, so there are 14 of them that are 14 feet high and they're 21 feet long.
No, they're longer than 21 feet long. The difference in height is they're tilted, so the lower end is going to be 14 feet and the higher end will be 21 feet.
Oh, okay, it's just, there was 2 different numbers in here, so thank you for the clarification.
Suzanne?
The equipment pads, how are you gonna protect those from the people parking?
So they are outside the limits of the fence area for the parking lot, and they'll be on individual equipment pads. All the equipment on the pads will have locks on them, so no one has
Like
access.
a generator box type of thing?
Yeah, I have some pictures of
There's a lot of varmints
typical.
up that area, so.
Here's some, can you see that? Let me see.
A lot of deer.
Deer tick.
Deer ticks.
These are, so this is a carport that they've installed, and this is a typical equipment pad.
Okay,
That would be there.
great, thanks.
Yep.
Couple things just to make sure we get on the record. This is an accessory use to the permitted parking lot of the Steamship Authority, correct?
Correct.
Your drainage plan has been approved by building. Lifespan was 20 to 30 years on these?
Correct.
That's all I have, thank you. Mark?
Are those the batteries to the right?
This is, I'll let him introduce yourself, but this is NextGrid.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Are those the batteries to the right? You have battery
He's
storage, right?
here.
Oh, sorry. The bottom left picture is a picture of a battery cabinet. That's an older design. Now, that's an enterable space. Now what we use are non-enterable cabinets.
Now, they don't require a sump or any kind of a retaining basin or whatever for that?
No.
Not that I believe.
Know nothing about it. Think that there would be. That's all.
Frank?
How many posts are there going to be holding up each solar canopy?
It varies per canopy. I think the span was every 20 feet. There is going to be a foundation, but the structural design is not finalized yet.
So, with these posts, will you be losing any parking capacity?
No, the posts, let me go back to the site plan. The post will be installed down the center line of the array, and they'll be installed in between the spots. So there's no loss in parking for the Steamship Authority associated with the project.
Okay, thank you.
One other question. What's the number, how many charging stations are going in?
A total of 95. There's some on site now, I don't know that number, but the total final number will be 95.
Thank you. Jerry? So give me
Questions?
Any of that going back into the grid too?
Yes, all the power is going back into the grid.
Except for what goes with the batteries.
From the grid.
Public comment. More discussion.
Motion to close.
Motion to close. Second, Mr. Finneran. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? We're closed. No new testimony will be taken. How would the board like to proceed?
Motion to approve with conditions.
I'm going to actually give that to Mr. Finneran. He was soft-spoken about it, though. But
Yeah.
he started
For
first. I'll
once.
give the second to you, Mark.
Make a note.
Findings.
Never happen again.
All right, let's see, it's in an LIA zone, West Falmouth Harbor Overlay District. It did have two special permits, one in 2000, but it was designated for gravel parking, and in '05, it was a special permit granted for an auto body shop. Existing is 0/21, proposed is 3, probably the pad's over 24. She just said 21 in height, down to 14, if I'm correct. Like Jim said, accessory use to the parking lot. We did hear 95 charging units. I don't know, do you want the measurements of the pads under findings?
Just in,
Three per plans, okay. 3.
condition it.
What's the lot?
Residential neighbors to be disturbed.
Yep. It's on an 18.59 acre parcel. It's suitable. Testimony was that these, the arrays have a 20 to 30-year lifespan. Why don't we just have a note that while the application is not permitted in our zoning use tables, 40A Section 3 and a string of case laws specifically authorize this sort of project and prohibit us from a denial absent. There's been no showing of any issue concerning health or safety from any town board, from the building inspector, fire chief, or Board of Health. No opposition at the hearing. There'll be no effect on traffic. The stormwater plan has been acceptable to town engineering. You said light industrial.
There's also a solar panel array right across the street at the ice arena. too.
Yes.
So it's
Yep.
And another one,
appropriate in the neighborhood.
and another one up in the fairgrounds. So it's in keeping with neighborhood use, as well as other projects in town. Any additional findings? 95 charging stations, that was in there. Maureen, we forgotten anything? Conditions. Per plans, standard hours of work, soil erosion, sediment controls, town stormwater standards. Any other conditions from town? That's it. Anything else? All those in favor to approve, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's a vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last up under new hearings, we have 00124 Dresser trustees, 44 Waquoit Landing Road, East Falmouth, requesting a special permit to raise the existing detached garage, replace it with a two-car garage, and expand the second floor of the existing non-conforming dwelling.
We have Scott and Angie Zaka, A. Dresser, sorry if I demolished that name. 56 Benjamin Drive, Boxborough, Mass. Applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Section 240.11.4A and 240.10.2A of the Code of Falmouth to raise the existing detached garage and replace it with a two-car garage and expand the second floor of the existing non-conforming dwelling. The subject property is 44 Wacoit Landing Road, East Falmouth. And let's see what we have from town boards. We have engineering first. This application was reviewed for impacts to public rights-of-way, public utilities. Wacoit Landing is a public right-of-way in this area. Alterations are proposed to the right-of-way that will require filing a permit with the engineering division. We request that the board either require the applicant to obtain an approved driveway permit with the engineering division prior to closing the hearing for the special permit, or that the board include the following condition. Quotations, the applicant shall obtain an approved driveway permit and post any required bond with the engineering division prior to the start of construction. The applicant shall complete the work as approved by the engineering division in the driveway permit, unquote. 2, any connections or alterations to public utilities will require permission from the appropriate town department. 3, the project must not direct any stormwater runoff to public properties, abutters, or public rights-of-way. 4, where this project falls under the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, we defer to the Commission for Stormwater Management and Construction Erosion Controls. We recommend the following condition be included. Quotations, construction activity shall not cause erosion or sedimentation to the abutting properties or town rights-of-way. 5, drive wells are proposed for the roofs, as we typically recommend. That was engineering. Planning has no comment. Fire department, no comment. Building, no habitable space requested for second floor garage. Please condition electrical only and no plumbing allowed on second story. And we have Concom, who has issued a, I guess,
They needed a revised plan?
they did need a revised plan. I think they sent an email, right? Yes. It's here. More Concom. Scott McCann, the exercise room and downstairs office meet the definition of a bedroom in Title V. And I did see that there was amendment to that they did change, there's the amendment right here. They did change one of those rooms downstairs to not be a bedroom. No letters, am I correct? No letters.
For the applicant, good evening.
Good evening. Through the chair, members of the board, my name is Brian Wall. I represent the applicants in this matter, Mr. and Mrs. Dresser. The Dressers own the property at 44 Wacoit Landing Road, and it's in an RA residential zoning district. They seek to perform some renovations to the home and raise the existing garage and replace the garage with a larger two-car garage. The lot, the house, and the garage are all non-conforming, and thus special permits are required. And we have applied under Chapter 240, Section 11.4A to alter a pre-existing non-conforming structure, and if necessary, under 240, 10.2A to permit an accessory structure in the front yard. I've put up the site plan that is being used for this purpose and also was used for conservation approval. And I'll just go through the existing conditions very quickly. The lot size is 25,600 square feet. The frontage is 96.52. There's an existing 5-bedroom dwelling on the property. There's a detached garage in the front yard, and the existing is shown in this lighter shade of color right here. And according to the records of the Falmouth assessor, the dwelling was originally constructed in 1934. The lot, as far as the legal status, non-conforming nature of the matter, the lot is undersized because it's 25,600 where 40,000 is required. I'm sorry, 45,000. 100 feet of frontage is required, and it has 96.52. The house conforms to all the setbacks except that it's less than 50 feet from the waters of Wacoit Bay. The garage is non-conforming, first because it's in the front yard, and second, you can see it's 2.1 feet from the side property line right in this particular area. The proposed project is to renovate the dwelling and expand the second floor. The renovations will modify the footprint of the house in a few minor ways. Here on the south side, this staircase is going to be removed, And so that's going to increase the setback from 15.1 to 21.4 feet. So it's going to improve conditions there. The front existing steps, you can see them shown here just in the, just this light shaded area right here in front of the house. Those are going to be replaced with a new landing, which is set back from the front a little bit more than the existing. And on the north side, this is not a zoning-related matter, but these sets of stairs here are going to be removed. It was for conservation purposes to get the property a little bit further away from an existing coastal bank. The proposed dwelling will be 27 feet 7 inches in height, which complies with the applicable 35-foot height requirement. The garage here, the existing garage, is proposing to be raised and replaced with this larger two-car garage. The non-conforming nature of the garage is that it's in the front yard, and that normally requires a special permit, but it's pre-existing. It's also closer to the front road than allowed. It's supposed to be 50 feet, but it's currently 38. That is proposed to be increased by 1.4 feet. And the reason for that is twofold. One is we're trying to keep the garage as close to where the existing one is now, but the existing garage is on a slight angle, and so when that angle is straightened out, the proposed garage will be 1.4 feet closer to the front yard setback than the existing structure. However, it's also going to be moved away from the property line. The current garage is 2.1 feet, and it's going to be moved to a compliant 10 feet 6 inches. The garage will be a two-car garage on the first level. The applicants are proposing to have electricity in the garage and water on the first floor because they would like to have a spigot down there and also a wash sink, but there's no habitable space proposed on the second floor. It's only going to be for storage, and they have no objection to the conditions that were read into the record by Ms. Murphy about nothing more than electrical upstairs is fine. That's the project. One last point about the garage. It will be 18 feet 5.5 inches, which is less than the 22 feet that's allowed. So we are applied under 2410.2A, which essentially says that a pre-existing non-conforming structure can be altered as long as it's not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing structure. And I think that you can see just by the nature of the project that the changes are relatively de minimis. And if you look at the house designs, I know the board doesn't review aesthetics, but it's essentially taking a relatively old, almost 100-year house and making it look kind of like the houses that are being built today. It's going to fit in the neighborhood quite well. The bylaw at 240.12.1 provides a number of criteria to help you reach the decision that the project is not substantially more detrimental. I went through all of those in my letter, my narrative. I won't go through all of them here, but I want to mention a few. One is the adequacy of the site. Again, the changes to this footprint are very minor, and the garage is getting bigger, but it's being made to a two-car garage, which is consistent with today's standards. The proposed building coverage will be 15.6 when the project is done, whereas 20% is allowed. And the proposed site coverage will be 28.8%, where 40% is allowed. So it's under all of the criteria. The suitability for the site, as for the proposed use, well, the proposed use is a single-family dwelling that's been there since 1934, so the site is suitable. There'll be no impact on traffic flow or safety because there's 5 bedrooms proposed and there's existing 5, so there's no increase in the intensity of the use of the property. The sewage system is existing, but the proposed project involves putting a new Title V system in, so there'll be, again, no increase in bedrooms, but there'll be a new Title V. We would respectfully submit that the project meets the criteria of not being more substantially detrimental to the neighborhood. And furthermore, the nonconformity to the garage side yard setback is being eliminated and will be made conforming, and the setback to the south will be increased by about 5 or 6 feet, so as far as increased for the good. In addition, there's the new Title V septic system, and from a conservation perspective, the increased setback to the coastal bank is also a benefit. That's the submission. We are available for any questions.
Questions to the board? Jerry, we'll start with you.
No question.
Frank?
No, I think it's a decent project. It's a good presentation, Mr. Wall. Is there any changes envisioned for the boathouse, or is that going to stay as is?
The boathouse stay as is, it's not being touched.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mark?
No, it certainly is time. It's beginning to show its age around the edges. Just the driveway's going down that hill to the front of the house. Is this gonna be a seasonal property, remain a seasonal property?
Well, I think the family does use it seasonally now, but it's not proposed that way in case they...
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, I mean, that's about a 9-foot drop. In the wintertime, you might end up in your new front steps.
I would defer to the engineer that designed the project. I will say, though, Mr. Finneran, you did raise a point that I wanted to talk about earlier. I mentioned that the garage right here is getting a little bit closer to the front property line, and that is something the board can allow under your special permit granting authorities. And I mentioned that it was to keep the face the same. We did explore trying to pull that back so that I didn't have to ask for that increase of 1.4 feet. But it created all kinds of drainage and cut and fill requirements because of the grade that you just mentioned. And so I wanted to mention there's more reasons than just aesthetics for that request.
Fairly obvious.
Yeah.
Suzanne?
Well, this looks like a great project.
Scott?
Yeah, I appreciate the trade-offs by getting the 10 feet on the sideline and giving up a little over a foot to the front lot line. To Mark's point, it's a neat old house, but it's time for an upgrade. And getting a new septic system certainly is worthwhile also. Good project, thank you.
Thank you.
Tony?
I think it's an outstanding project. I do have a quick question, though, with regard to the garage and being able to move it back. It's currently on the edge of that drop. I have no idea how you're going to, I know the engineers aren't here, but I have no idea how you're gonna make that driveway work. But in making that driveway work, the way it needs to work, you could move that garage back. I mean, from a foundation point of view, you could actually move that garage backwards, but it's a matter of putting a deeper foundation.
And again, I'm not an engineer, but I will tell you that it was explored. I was asking the client to be put in a position where I didn't have to ask for that 1.4 feet. And it caused quite a significant change to grade, cut and fill, et cetera, that to the point where they really didn't want to do that they asked me to proceed with this plan.
Again, I think I think it could go back. I'm not an engineer, but I think it could go back. It depends on how they put the foundation in, but I think it's an outstanding project.
Okay, thank you.
Any follow-up board questions? Public comment? None. Board discussion?
Motion to close.
Motion to close. Suzanne, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are closed. No more testimony will be taken. How would the board like to proceed?
Approve with conditions.
Motion to approve the conditions.
I'll second that again.
Second by, okay, findings.
Findings, let's see. When an RA zone, overlay district of Apoit, flood zone AE 13. One previous appeal, special permit in 98. The lot size is 25,600. It's on a public road. Existing, we have 13.7 for the structures and 16.3 for the overall. Proposed is 15.6, overall 28.8. The height is 27.7, if I'm correct?
Yeah.
You said something about an 18, and I wasn't sure what.
That's
where
the
garage.
garage.
The garage,
Yeah.
okay.
18.5 and a half.
18.5 in the garage, sorry. Thank you.
5 bedrooms?
5 bedrooms, new septic, improving the side yard What else do we have here?
Not more detrimental.
Not more detrimental, right? And that's what we have.
Special permit will bring the garage into compliance with the zoning law. The testimony is going to be removal of north side stairs away from the coastal bank. Reduction or elimination of the project it reduces or eliminates nonconformities, brings the overall nonconformity more into compliance with the
Right.
bylaw.
It's a 240.11.4A and
Thank you.
240.10.2A.
3,300 square feet existing structures, what is proposed, 3,792, increase of 492 square feet. Lot is suitable for what is proposed, even though it is non-conforming. No opposition at the hearing and no opposition, no letters of support or opposition to the file. Any additional findings? Conditions?
Per boards.
Per plans?
Concom, yeah. Per plans and, per town departments.
No plumbing on the second floor of the garage, no habitable space on the second floor. Tan driveway permit.
Right. As submitted, the exercise room or the office, they submitted exercise room is not, is doing the larger doorway.
Yeah, per revised plans, to include elimination of bedroom as indicated by Board of Health to comply with Title V and remain 5 bedrooms.
No plumbing second floor above the garage. Boathouse is not being renovated.
Put that as a finding, not a condition.
As a finding.
Any other conditions?
Work hours?
Work, standard work hours, yep.
And I
Anything else,
just
Lorraine?
had a note that they're not finishing the second floor, but if they desire to do so, they'll have to come back.
That's fine. Anything else, anyone? No. All right, all those in favor of approval, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That is a vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone.
All right, returning back to continuation, 08223 Galasso, 545 Main Street, Falmouth, requesting a special permit to redevelop building for dwelling units, commercial accommodations, and restaurant, appealing the building commission. No, we've already dealt with that, it's just special permit. Mr. Clower, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, Kevin Clower, attorney with Ahmed Clower Law Firm here in Falmouth. I am here tonight pinch hitting for my partner, Bob Ahmed, who cannot be here. He's recovering from surgery. So I will be the first one to tell you that while I am familiar with this project, and I've been assisting lightly and following, I don't have the expertise that Bob and Mr. Galasso have. While I don't typically let a lack of knowledge stop me from talking, I'm going to defer to Mr. Galasso in this case and let him make the presentation to the board relative to the updates since our last hearing. So I'm going to cede the floor over to Mr. Galasso at this point.
Good evening, everyone. Michael Galasso, 107 Lakeview Ave. I'm the developer of this project, converting the old nursing home into affordable housing. And what I'd like to do is, I believe these were the 3 remaining issues that we had from our last meeting. And what I'd like to do is go through those in a little bit of detail for you tonight. It's a short presentation, but I think it's important for us to have a clear understanding of the remaining 3 issues that we had from our last meetings. So the first is from Board Member Murphy, was really to make sure that the 26 residential units would be on the SHI. It's required under the zoning that they be on the SHI. It's also required in our planning board permit that we have for the project. We did have a conference call with the members of the LIP division, that's the Local Initiative Program. The Local Initiative Program, for those who don't know it, those are units that we would put on the SHI if it does not have any state funding. So this project will have a large amount of state funding, so it's a requirement that it would be on the SHI. So it's not only a requirement of the zoning, the planning board, could be a requirement of your approval of the project too. So it is not a lip because we have state funding. The Mr. Cod requires that 25% of the residential units be restricted affordable. That would mean that 7 of those units would be restricted affordable. Our proposal is that we would double that to 50% of the restricted units, of the residential units, which would go from 7 to 13 units, would be restricted to be affordable. The majority of those will be at 80% of median income. Okay, parking. We've had a lot of discussions about parking. So, existing, there are 71 parking spaces on the site. Our zoning requires the parking spaces that are there to be larger. It does not allow, like some towns and municipalities do, that we could have any compact size. In between us having to increase the size of the existing parking and providing for the fire truck to get all the way around the building, we're down to 56 spots. In one of the prior meetings, one of our neighbors who lives across the street and has a business across the street complained about the traffic on Main Street. He said it took him a long time to get from Shore Street to his business. Adding additional parking is only going to add more traffic to Main Street. We believe under section 247.5F, paragraph 2D, I know that's a lot, it's on page 73, that the Mr. Cod ordinance allows for reduction in parking on site if you provide a car sharing program. We're providing a car sharing program. I think I mentioned to the board in some of my prior presentations that we will have 2 electric cars that would be shared only by our residents. We have an 8-passenger electric van transport our residents around town, 32 bicycles. So I think we've gone beyond just providing a car sharing program. I'd be more than happy to increase the number of shared cars if that would allow us not to have off-site parking. We'll talk about that one second. So, more cars, more pollution, more traffic. I think everyone is moving more towards shared vehicles, electric vehicles, using public transportation, using bicycles, walking. So I'm hoping that those amenities that we're adding to our project, which go above and beyond just the required car sharing program, would help reduce the requirement for additional off-site parking. But let's talk about that. So we spent the last 2 months, really, trying to secure some additional off-street parking. One location that we have negotiated with the owners of the Marriott Hotel, which is right next door, is the back part of their property, which you can see there. I've got the red P for parking, is an area that is part of the Marriott Motel. It's behind their swimming pool, and if you go back there, you'll notice that they cut down a bunch of trees a number of years ago. There's nothing there right now but stumps. So they have agreed to lease us that back area if we would agree to improve it so it can be used for parking at all costs. So this gives you a little better idea where it is. It abuts our property. It's at the same grade as our parking lot, so it would be easy accessible. And it can accommodate 24 parking spaces, double the amount that you had previously required, which was 12. So if required, that's a location where we can put the additional cars. We don't think, as I've said previously, that we really need it, but if it helps us gain your approval, we're willing to do that, at our cost. An alternative is a piece of property that Mark Bogosian owns down by the plaza. You might recognize it has these 2 eating spaces, the taco place and DJ's, and it's located behind there. It's more parking than what's required for that site. Obviously, it's a little bit further away, but we thought it'd be good to at least present an alternative besides just the Mariner Motel. We think the Mariner Motel is a better location. We haven't signed the agreement yet with them. They have agreed to lease it with us. We've had discussions. We know what all the terms are. Unfortunately, the gentleman who owns it had a knee injury, so he's been in and out of the hospital lately, so we haven't been able to finally sign the agreement. But they've agreed to do it. So the other issue I think what Member Finneran had was density. So the whole purpose of Mr. Cod was to increase density in basically our urban area, our downtown area. And maybe when they came up with Mr. Cod, and I was involved in a number of the meetings that the planning board had years ago when they were putting together the Mr. Cod ordinance. What would happen if you had an existing building? How would you handle that with Mr. Cod? How do you calculate the density? And so I think that's a big part of why we're here. You know, we're doing a mixed-use project that contains both residential and commercial accommodation. But if there is an appropriate location for density, I say that it's here on our main street. We have sewer that actually, it's been calculated, will use less, will have less of an outflow than the nursing home. Public transportation. It has a high walkability score. We went from 121 beds to 71 units. That's a 41% less usage for that building than it was previously. That's human density. It's a 52,000 square foot building. If you divide that by the number of units, it's about 732 square feet per unit. And we're not trying to jam a lot into this building. What we have is many amenities that go along with this. We have the communal dining kitchen area. We have the gym, laundry facility, a co-working space, a cafe. So we're not trying to overuse the property. We think it's an appropriate use for the property, and we need every unit that we can get. So what we have done is that we took a look at our plans, and we're able to we're able to combine 8 of the rooms into 4 studios. So in order to lessen the density, we're willing to reduce the number of units from 71 to 67, I believe the math is correct. So there's a cost of doing that. There's a cost of the off-site parking, too. And I think it's important for us to understand what that cost is. So the off-site parking, the economic impact of that to the project, it's going to cost us about $45,000 to improve that parking area. Each year is going to cost us $25,000 in rent, in maintenance and insurance. Over 5 years, that's $170,000. The economic impact that it has to the project is $25,000 more a year in additional expenses. That will lower the amount of supportable mortgage that we can put on the property by $350,000. That increases the gap from the town, from the state, by $350,000. The economic impact of the density is actually more. So we currently have the 8 rooms at 100% AMI, or $21.75 per month. That's the rent for those units. So over a year, the income is $208,000. When we go down to 4 studios at the same rent scale at 100% AMI, it's $119,280. That's an annual income loss of almost $90,000. Loss of $90,000 reduces the amount of a mortgage we can get by $1,250,000, which increases the amount of the gap. So when you add the two together, the economic impact of doing the off-site parking and reducing the number of units is $1.6 million. Now, why is that important? Because that's $1.6 million in additional funding that we'll need for this project that we couldn't use for additional housing in other projects. So I just think it's important for the board to understand, we're willing to do the things that you've requested, but you gotta understand there's an economic impact that affects not only our project, but also the ability to fund other projects. It's $1.6 million, and right now the town is willing to fund about 100,000 per affordable unit, 16 units. So, we think we're presenting a great project for the town. A great project that is desperately needed. It's in a great location. We're using an existing building. We're not adding any square footage to the building. We think that we're lessening the impact of the building from a nursing home to a residential. We have a lot of people here tonight, and you've heard them all, a number of them before, that really think this is a desperately needed project. We really like your support this evening. If you have any questions.
Tony, start with you this evening.
The key to this parking space with the Marriott is the term of the lease. How long will I know you haven't finished it yet, but what's the term of the lease going to be?
5 years from the time that we get an occupancy permit.
Will it have 5-year extensions, or is it end in 5 years to be renegotiated?
I think the zoning requires that we have 5 years. We haven't talked about any extensions with them at this time.
So once the initial 5 years goes by, those parking spaces can go away, yet you have an investment of $45,000 to build the parking spaces. So you have to amortize that over the 5 years.
I did not include that in my calculation, but you're correct.
No. And then, at the end of that, you either get the additional 5 years. Why wouldn't you negotiate a 5-5-5?
Well, so we've spent a lot of time between the last meeting and this meeting just talking to people on Main Street and close by to see what we could find for additional parking. Many people, and you're going to start to see it, have plans for their property. If it's a vacant lot or a building that might become vacant, they're very hesitant to give up their property, very hesitant. Even Mr. Borgosian's proposal says that if he wants to redevelop that property, he will help us find additional parking spaces if we need them. Remember, our thought is that we don't need these spaces. Our thought is that we can control the amount of parking that we need. And again, I'd rather add more electric shared vehicles than do additional parking. I think that's not only good for us, but I think it's good for the environment, and it's good for the town.
I don't want you to misunderstand my question. I think this is an outstanding project. That's just me alone. I think it needs to be done. There are no other projects that can provide this level of housing for this type of pricing, but there's a concern on this board about parking and the density. So I'm only bringing that up, hoping that that can be resolved.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Petrucci, I think that I think potential extensions is a great idea. I think the reality of it is that any extension would have to be a mutual option, just given the nature of this, which effectively, at least terminating at 5 years, is still a mutual option to renew, whether or not it's stated. We could work with the owner about potentially setting forth some terms for that, but I can't imagine a world in which they're going to grant us a lessee option to unilaterally extend. So, we can certainly explore potential extensions, but I think it would have to be under a mutual obligation, a mutual consent.
At least try and get options.
Sure.
Anything else, Tony?
Okay. I'm going to speak to density. I apologize. I have a fair amount of notes here, so you're going to have to kind of stay with me, Mrs. Glasso. I think for myself also, I really believe in the project, but I believe you continue to have overreach in the permitting process. Mr. Cod is a density bonus overlay district that allows a developer to increase multifamily residential density from 6 units to 20 units per acre. That's what we're asking for, Mr. Cod. To give you some background on Mr. Cod, it stretches from approximately 2 miles from Townhouse Square along Main Street to Route 28, all the way up to the Route 28 Sandwich Road intersection. It consists of 226 parcels containing approximately 221 acres in total. At 20 units per acre times the 221 units, there could be an additional 4,420 new units added to this 2-mile zone. Falmouth has a year-round population of roughly 32,517 people. If you're to add those 8,840 persons to that, that would be a 27% increase in the town of Falmouth's population over this 2-mile stretch in Mr. Cod. If you, in your development and your application, are also asking for commercial accommodations by counting the underlying lot twice, I don't believe you can do that per the bylaw, but that's only my reading of it. If you're to count Mr. Cod with additional commercial accommodation, that 8,400 people would be exponentially higher. I don't believe you could count the acreage twice. With that said, I agree with the town of Falmouth subject area experts, being Jed Gornuck and his team at the planning department, and the building commissioner, Gary Street, and his team that have assessed the property, which is this. The lot size is 67,892 square feet. You're afforded 20 units per acre. So you're afforded 26 residential units that would consume 52,000 square feet. You'll have another 10 commercial accommodation units, which would consume the remaining 15,892 square feet. By the bylaw, by the subject area experts that the town pays to oversee these things, you have a total of 36 units that are allowed, plus the 24-seat restaurant that you would need. That would consume 48 parking spaces, and as you mentioned earlier, the project currently has 56. That's what I believe I can support. I apologize that I don't maybe read the same bylaw the way you do it, but I just don't understand how you can double count the same amount of square footage and the density and double this density. I believe in Mr. Cod, but again, you think about having a 27% potential increase in population over a 2-mile radius. It's just, I think, it's just too much. So
I'll let
that's
Kevin
my
talk to
comments.
I'll let Kevin talk to the legal part of reading the ordinance and everything, but I will say that I've been working on this project for 2 years. The building commissioner walked through the building along with administrator and the planning director and many other people from this administration. No one, until the building commissioner made that presentation, ever said to us that we were overreaching. Everyone supported the project very strongly. For us to go 2 years on this project and then to hear a presentation from someone who's been through the building, from someone who knows me, knows my phone number, knows my email, and never call me and tell me that he thought that we were overreaching, I think is a bad comment on the way this town is operating to help provide affordable housing. If that was the case 2 years ago, we wouldn't be here tonight. So I'll let Kevin talk about the legal needs of it, but from a processing standpoint, this was never brought up to us until the presentation here, and he never even called me before the presentation to say, Mike, just want to let you know, here's where we're at. We're not going to get anywhere in this town if that's the way we're going to treat people who are trying to do good things in this community.
So, Mr. Peterson, I don't disagree that a potential full build-out of the Mr. Cod is a dramatic increase. However, that's what the bylaw allows. And if the town wasn't going to allow that, Mr. Cod shouldn't have been approved, but this is the bylaw that we have. So I think we have to work within those parameters. So within that, it says mixed-use development with a density of up to 20 units per 40,000 square feet of upland. So the key there is the mixed-use development, because that is specifically defined as a development containing a mix of residential and non-residential uses, whether, including without limitation, commercial, institutional, or other uses, as well as modifications to existing buildings. So you're allowed commercial use, which in this case, we're using commercial accommodations, which is not, those are short-term, 30 days. Those are not permanent residents necessarily, but that's intended to alleviate the needs of a lot of the business community in the busier summer months. So that's not truly adding to the population the way you're concerned with. But more than that, it's residential and non-residential uses. So using the 20 units per acre that's allowed by Mr. Cod does not usurp the use that the underlying commercial use that is otherwise allowed. We happen to be using commercial accommodations, which is the commercial use that is part of that mixed-use component. But using the 20 units per acre does not usurp the commercial use, much as using the commercial use does not usurp the 20 units per acre allowed by Mr. Cod. So under that, you do effectively count it twice, because you're allowed to have the commercial development, you're allowed to have the residential development. And the residential development is inherently a mixed use. That's the mixed residential commercial overlay district. That's the entire purpose of the district, is for there to be both residential and commercial. Using one does not usurp the other.
I appreciate that, but again, when the subject area experts of this town, that the town entrusts and pays for, both have come forward with their teams and have said that that is not the way it can be counted, it makes it very difficult for me to move forward with the applicant's ask here. And that's where I'm at right now. I just wanted to be clear, is that it's the 26 residential units plus the 10 commercial. I'd love it to be a lot more, but I don't see where that, you can count the acreage twice. I just
So
don't see that.
if that's the case, why didn't the planning director bring this issue up at the planning board before even issuing a permit? Why did the building commissioner wait until we were here after 3 meetings to bring the issue up? I understand you're relying on their comments, but why do they come at this time? Why didn't they come early on in this whole process? You don't understand.
I appreciate your comments, Mr. Glasso, but I can only go on the information that was afforded to me also. And the information that was afforded to me from the planning board and the building commissioner is exactly that map that I've reiterated twice. I don't know, I wasn't part of those meetings. I don't know why those discussions didn't take place. I can't speak for them. But what I can speak for is the math that they've given me. So I apologize, but.
So, Mr. Peters, my only comment would be that I think it's clear, and if it's not, I want to say it specifically, that I hold both Mr. Cornock and Mr. Street in the highest regard, and I have nothing but the utmost respect for both of them. However, they've stated an opinion. I understand your position, that you're saying you have to rely on that. However, I don't think the board has to rely on it. The board has, the reason the board is here is to weigh these factors. I think the bylaw is clear that the use of one does not exempt the use of the other. And that, doing so, this is the entire purpose of the bylaw, is to have both the residential and the commercial uses. It doesn't, the bylaw does not say that if you do the commercial, you don't get the residential, or vice versa. It's intended to have both. And I think the board's job is to interpret that. The planning board certainly found that way, and they're the ones who wrote the bylaw. I know that we're not in front of the planning board, we're in front of the zoning board tonight. But this is the board's job to interpret this bylaw and to, take in the information that's given to you, not just by the town, but also by the applicant, and to weigh those factors.
So you believe that the town meeting approval if my numbers were accurate, would be to allow 8,840 persons under Mr. Cod, and probably the equivalent amount of those under commercial accommodations. So in a 2-mile stretch, you believe that town meeting wanted to have an additional 16,000 people in town over a 2-mile radius. I find that hard to believe.
I think that what you had said was if the total build-out happened, it would be 4,000 units.
Correct. Of Mr. Cod only.
Of Mr. Cod.
And you're mixing in commercial accommodations
Sure.
also.
But that is, that is not necessarily going to be 2 people per unit. It could be 1 person, it could be 3. When we have no, that could be any number of things. So I don't know that the number is necessarily 8,000. And we happen to be using an existing building to provide for some commercial accommodations. Not all of these will be commercial accommodations. The only other Mr. Cod project that I've seen permitted was the one where Excel Auto is located, and that was 15 units, and then a restaurant or commercial space on the ground floor. That was not commercial accommodations. Not all of these will be commercial accommodations. We happen to be using commercial accommodations as our commercial mixed use because of the existing building. We have infrastructure that is asking to be used. It is asking to be used in a way that can benefit this town, and by providing both short-term and long-term lodging, we're able to do that. So I don't think it's fair to say that we're going to go from another 8,000 or 16,000 people because it's all going to be commercial accommodations, because it's not. This bylaw's been on the books for about a year and a half. This is the second project that I'm aware of that has come forward. And the reason for that is building costs. And here we have existing infrastructure that is allowing for this to happen in a way that makes sense.
Again, I appreciate your comments and your thought process. Wouldn't we be setting precedents if we allowed you to double count the acreage?
No, because that's already been allowed. The one that was allowed, the Excel Auto allowed for 15 units plus full commercial use on the first floor. That is it's not setting precedent. That's the exact intent of the bylaw.
Tend to disagree, but that's fine. Thank you for your response.
Suzanne?
I was the one that asked for a letter from EOHL. Do we have anything?
That's something you should bring up with the assistant town attorney.
Me?
Or Noreen can, yes. Yep. So we had a conference,
Okay.
we had a conference call. We had a conference call with our assistant town attorney was
I
on that.
saw all the emails you had with Mass Housing, and they're telling you can't do this. You need to
No.
separate.
Yeah, and that is something that we'll look at when we get to the point of actually financing the project.
There is a way to bifurcate ownership of these units.
Are we going to do that?
We'll do whatever is necessary to, it's a condition of our funding, it's a condition of the planning board decision, and presumably it would be a condition of this board, that whatever we do is going to require that we have full listing on the SHI for the 26 or 30 units, whichever we proceed with. And we're not going to be able to proceed unless we do that. So we can't bifurcate ownership for something that hasn't been developed yet. The way you do that is you'd effectively condominiumize the building with two units, the one being the commercial aspect and one being the SHI units, which is certainly something we would do. We'll do whatever the state requirements are in order to meet that, and that would be a condition of this board.
Okay.
But it's not something we can do.
Happening on my watch.
It's not something we can do preliminarily. You can't create a condominium until the building's actually constructed. So, there's no way that you can do that at this stage in the process. It would be, again, a condition of all of the decisions and the funding is that we meet the SHI requirements and be listed on SHI for the units that we're including in that. So we're not going to be able to proceed unless we meet that. And our expectation is it would be a condition. And if the process ended up being a condominiumization of it to create two units effectively, then we would do that. I think there's a few ways you could do it. But what Mass Housing is saying, you can't do it under one ownership rubric,
Correct.
which, fine, we wouldn't need to.
One more question, Attorney Clower. I'm just looking back at the planning board. Mr. Card is set up as a planning board site plan review only, which means the planning board is not legally empowered to deny a Mr. Card application. Do you agree with that?
I've seen the planning board not approve site plan reviews, so I don't know that I would agree with that.
Mr. Cod, site plan review?
Again, we've seen two Mr. Cod site plan reviews, so I don't think I have a long litmus test there. But the planning board is not required to grant approval for any site plan review.
But it may approve Mr. Card application with conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I'm all set, thank you.
Mark?
I have to basically echo what Scott said. Basically using the land twice. I mean, it's kind of disingenuous to say that you have one approved at Paul's Precision because they're not using commercial. I mean, that's a true Mr. Cod. What you're looking for here is somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 units an acre, and town meeting gave you 20. You were supposed to come here with, as far as the parking is concerned, this permit is for life. I mean, if you get a 5-year parking lease and then it goes away, where are we then? everybody knows, well, certainly everybody strongly suspects that Mr. Bogosian is going to do a Mr. Cod on his property, and that one will be certainly no longer available in sometime in the very near future. It's just,
Respectfully,
I hate, you know, too many things don't fit in the box.
I don't think that we can make a presumption that anyone's going to develop this property at a future date. Probably speaking out of turn, but as Mr. Bogosian's attorney, I can tell you that there's no such intention of that at this time. Forever's an awful long time, but that is not something that's been discussed. The zoning bylaw allows for leases of off-site parking and requires a 5-year minimum, which is what we've done in this case.
Sorry. I have to agree with our professionals. And as far as you saying that Jed Corner told you along the way that this wasn't going to fly, and the first night you were in here, I believe it was Suzanne asked what the planner thought, and Mr. Fox's comment was, well, he doesn't get a vote. He's no different than a regular citizen. He's our paid professional, as is Gary Street. And I mean, and we have to use this book. And I don't see anywhere in here where it says we can do what you want to do.
Well, I quoted
You
from the
have
book.
40-plus commercial accommodations. You honestly think those people are going to come into this town on a bicycle?
I think, yes, I do.
No, I disagree with you.
I mean, I've been here in the summer, as have you, and you've seen the number of people we have riding bikes. And I think we've provided ride-sharing options, and we've located this long mass transit. And we've done everything we can to show that this parking shouldn't be required to be built out as much as you're indicating. There is, you know, we have over-parking in our regulations. And I simply don't think it's necessary. However, we've provided the parking. We've found parking, as you requested. We found more than enough parking, as close as it could possibly be, in a way that meets the requirements of the bylaw.
What this town needs more than anything is 2-bedroom apartments. I mean, you could construct this thing into 2-bedroom apartments. I mean, it just, I'm sorry, it doesn't fly.
Any additional questions?
No, I'm good.
Frank?
Well, I have more of a comment than questions, but very early in the process here, I made a motion to the board that we don't need a special permit from this board, that the site plan approval of the planning board is sufficient. And it's the way I read the bylaw. I still feel that way. So I'm inclined to approve this as a special permit on the same terms and conditions as the site plan review of the planning board, which I think is the only permit that you need under Mr. Cod.
Gary?
I agree with Frank as I read Mr. Cod, but I'd like a couple other comments. I don't know if anybody can speak to what town meeting intent is. We've been advised many times, you just vote on the proposal. The paragraphs in the intent don't carry any weight, maybe to others, but they're not legally binding on the town. As far as precedent's concerned, precedents would have to be matched in future projects. I don't know if any future project has the precedent that this. I don't think you can simply say we're setting a precedent without going fact by fact of what the precedent is we're dealing with. I don't think we can speculate. I think that's a no-no for any public board, is to speculate. What I do respect the concerns of the others, and I think maybe we should get a legal opinion from town council as to what the correct interpretation is. Jed had, the town planner had said at the end of his letter, he says, if it's going to be done this way, although I don't think it's legally possible, he can't give, no one in town can give a legal opinion other than town council, and I think we've come to a point where we need town council. Thank you.
So,
His argument
really doesn't hold any water because
I'm
if that
speaking to
was
the chair.
case-
I'm not speaking to you, and you didn't ask to go through the chair.
Anyway, why would town meeting put the number 20 on it if that wasn't what they intended? And, sorry.
So my feelings on this, regarding the parking issue, I think that, I may be in the minority, I think that the parking, as far as I'm concerned, can be addressed either permitted or, for anyone who's ever rented in a city, you get a lease, sometimes your lease makes very clear, you don't have parking. And as long as people have advance notice that there's no parking, I think there's some additional conditions that could be put on, such as through the use of the restaurant or so on, that you have to shift that to the restaurant, saying you're gonna have to, there is no parking here for you or your employees, you're gonna have to deal with parking off-site. And that's a cost of doing business. They can be shifted to the business, they can take it off their taxes, you can make this equitable and fair for the business owner. So as to the parking issues, I can't say no to that. I think that, that there are things that could be done to mitigate the fact that with what's proposed, that there's insufficient parking, and getting away from the number of vehicles is not necessarily a bad thing. Clearly, the town needs to do something to address parking in the downtown area since it's been redeveloped. It's Main Street is no longer the kind of the ghost town that it was 25 years ago. They need to construct multi-level parking garages or do something else, but that's not our battle. As to the parking, I think that we can find a solution. I am concerned about the density as well for a lot of the reasons that have been echoed. The reason I'm not going to be as drawing as a heart of a line is because there's no expansion of the footprint of this building, and it was pre-used. But I would feel better about voting for this if Mr. Cod had been amended or gets amended at town meeting, because I don't think it contemplated this type of building that was used for primarily residential purposes and is now being retasked. If there was a hotel, for example, that is being retasked, wanted to be converted into a condominium or residences. So this is a jump ball for me. Clearly, we have a housing need. We need 1- and 2-bedroom apartments. Clearly, we need transient commercial accommodations. But I'm not opposed to requesting town council, if they can advise us that it is permissible to allow the so-called double counting of the density. If they say no, then I'm going to very clearly fall on the same lot that I think that the majority of the board is right now, would be a no. If they say that it's permissible, okay, that's, I think that the cleanest way to resolve these issues is that you need to get the Mr. Cod bylaw tweaked or modified to address the situations in which this particular type of building is being proposed to be redeveloped. In which case, it's really, the issues then are not properly enforced. But I think the reason I'm a little hesitant is it's almost like you're asking for a use variance, and as you know, that's not something we can grant.
Well, I don't think we are asking for a use variance because of the fact that commercial accommodations are an allowed use within this district, special permit use, but an allowed use. And so we're not trying to do anything here that wouldn't otherwise be allowed under Mr. Cod or a special permit. The issue with modifying Mr. Cod is that the planning board declined to do so at this town meeting. They've opted to bring that presumably at the November town meeting. I don't think that's necessarily fair to the applicant for the planning board to have to then come back and modify whatever it is that they're going to modify. And I don't know what changes the planning board is going to make. And while there can be a petitioner article relative to this, there will be an article issued by the planning board at some point, hopefully in November. But I think that what we're proposing is clearly allowed by the Mr. Cod bylaw as it exists. But again, the board has discretion as to what they're going to approve and how they're going to interpret. And I think the board can and should in this case, because we have an existing structure that is literally begging to be used with a need that needs to be met. And, it strikes me as, I've had this conversation, it's too good of a project not to happen. And this board can find a way to approve it. So.
One specific question, what is the proposed wastewater, the needed wastewater flow for what you're proposing? What was it when it was the nursing home, if you know the information?
I don't know off the top of my head, but Amy did the calculations for us.
Is it less? Okay.
It was higher. The nursing home was higher, for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm not checking my text. Bob is watching this and trying to tell me things, and I'm not
You're ignoring them.
I'm not, yeah, exactly, I'm not playing Candy Crush. So I didn't want to be disrespectful in looking at my phone.
And I want to talk just a second about timing. We have one cycle a year from the state to apply for funding for projects throughout the state. It's a very competitive process. And those applications are due in June. You can't submit it until you have your ZBA or your planning board approval. So that would put us another whole year out easily if we're not able to come to an agreement before June.
And I'm sorry, the other concern, Mr. Clower, I have is just making sure that the affordable units can get on the subsidized housing, making sure that happens is a priority.
So, again, that would be a condition of any decision. If we weren't able to do it, we wouldn't be able to move forward with it.
The reason I stress it, though, is that because of the email threads that I've been reading, I'm saying, well, wait a minute, because of ownership interest and how to break that up into effectively that, I just see this as, it's a potential stumbling block, but that's a priority for me, is to making sure that the affordable units get on the SHI and remain on the SHI.
If we weren't able to get over that stumbling block, we wouldn't be able to proceed with the project.
Fenner, do you have a
And
question?
there was nothing in the discussion with the state that we would not be able to get these units on there. They wanted to clarify that they were not LIP units, that they would be on the list by going through the normal process that you have to go through for funding for the project with the state.
Mr. Veteran.
There's 351 cities and towns in this state, and they all have the same problem. And there isn't another project like this. And you're asking us to take too big of a leap.
There's another project of converting a nursing home into affordable housing.
It's not a mixed commercial, and, I mean, there's nothing like this.
I know there are a number of nursing homes that are closing and are being converted into housing.
Yes,
And
but
they're
not
also- they're
commercial
also being used for-
accommodations and affordable housing, the mix.
They're
My
also being
understanding
used-
is there isn't one in the state.
In fairness, I don't think there's a lot of bylaws like the Mr. Cod that allows for the mixed residential commercial use.
I mean, it's all Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, everybody's going in that direction, but they said 20 units an acre. You're asking for 40.
We're asking for 20 units per acre for the year-round residential use.
And then you want to count it again for,
We're looking at commercial use, which is commercial accommodations.
Any other follow-up questions before we go to public comment?
Did you say public comment?
Public comment. Public comment. Do you have a public comment, sir?
Thank you.
Thanks.
We may want to get into a queue here. It might be easier that way.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Ralph Herbst, Precinct 8, and I'd like to thank you for your service to the town. I still am a town meeting member. I was on a planning board for 14 years, Community Preservation Committee for 10. Obviously, I'm a great believer in affordable housing. I can attest to that by the sweatshirt that I'm wearing. I built houses with Habitat for Humanity on all over Cape Cod for over 20 years. This is a great project, and it's very unique. I understand your positions. I myself visited a friend in JML the other day, and as I'm walking down the corridors in JML, I'm looking into the rooms, and more than half of them are empty. So I asked the admission director, I said, why aren't you full? This is a great facility. She said, do you know any nurses? I said, yeah, I know some nurses. She said, well, I said, they're all employed. She said, I have a state regulation that says I can only have so many patients per nurse. She can't get nurses to work at her facility because they can't afford to live here, either rent or buy. So that's a facility that all of you may someday want to use. I personally have been in there twice for knee replacements, rehab. Mr. Galasso is a unique person to come before this board because he is not doing this as a hobby or an avocation. He's doing it as a businessman, but he happens to be in the business of doing something that we all want. We're lucky to have this man in the town of Falmouth. I don't think there's anybody that would dispute the fact that you'd rather have a person like Mr. Galasso coming to you with affordable housing than some developer off Cape who's coming in and trying to ruin Sandwich Road and ruin the character of our town by what he's proposing. So I hope that you will think outside the box, try and find a way to help Mr. Galasso make this happen so that we can provide affordable housing for young people that I'm guessing are employed or working or studying in Woods Hole, and all of the other people in this town that would like to have a relative or someone else come and enjoy the amenities that this town provides to its citizens. So thank you for your time, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Maureen Lipscoon-Maker. I'm the managing trustee at Pondview. I'm just going to speak very quickly of the concerns with the abutters. We've been following this, as you know, very closely, and with all due respect, we came here with an open mind, hoping after this last meeting that the issues that you had put forth were going to be addressed. And this is what keeps happening with our feelings of concern. Because I'm sorry to say, but what I heard in a layman's term is arguing, not meeting any of the conditions that you asked him, vagueness with a lease of parking, but first saying we don't need that. And that is some of our concerns, because as you know, we have a lot of concerns about what happens once it's built. And are these people going to be monitored? Is the administration of it going to be monitored? What happens with those one-room 30-day things? So I have to just be honest that I'm disheartened. I had hoped that he was able to come here and reassure us, be consistent, and the approach that he used doesn't make us feel any more comfortable, especially the approach that because it wasn't told to him sooner, now he should be able to have it. So that's the voice that we're saying. We don't feel any more comfortable, and I thank you for listening.
Hi there, Hannah Vanderschuren, Glenwood Avenue. There seems to be a lot of focus on the math tonight, reasonably, but one thing that I'd like to emphasize that Mr. Galasso said is this property will be, going down from a reduction of the nursing home residents who lived there previously. So I would like you to keep that in mind. And given that this is, there's one Cape Cod, Mr. Cod property that has passed, where this is number 2, I don't think it's fair to extrapolate that we'll have a numbers problem down the road, given how much it's taken to get this moving forward. We need density. We need the amount of units that Mr. Galasso was arranging. If you guys have been following the housing production plan in town, you'll know that finding creative solutions, finding multifamily solutions to the housing crisis here will be essential. So this is something that this team is working very hard to fulfill. And as demonstrated by the several young scientists here, people would be jumping at these units. And given that this structure already exists, I imagine when this will be built, I don't see this having a particularly big impact on people's experience in town when they're walking by. I don't think this will feel out of the ordinary by any means. It's a great use of an existing property, and we'd really like to see this move forward.
Hi, my name is Ben Weiss. I'm a fellow engineer in the scientific community. I am not a lawyer or an expert on town matters, but I just wanted to take a step back and make a comment about some things that I've been hearing today. I think earlier the word disingenuous was levied at Mr. Glasso, which I found to be unfortunate in nature, especially when I've heard so many town officials begin their statements by saying, I believe that affordable housing is important, I believe that it is necessary, and here are all the reasons why I'm going to choose in my power to interpret a bylaw or a regulation in such a way that essentially has the ability to take a project that is as creative as this and stop it in its tracks, especially after it's gained so much momentum after so many years. I also was looking at the agenda tonight, and I wasn't expecting to listen to those other requests before we got to this conversation, but I'm glad I did. In each of these lines, it says requesting a special permit. Requesting a special permit for a pool, requesting a special permit for a garage to house luxury vehicles that is twice the square footage of the place that I live in. And not only were these things accepted, but they were accepted with smiles, with excitement, because they were seen as things that would improve the lives of town members. My understanding of the language of a special permit is that you all have the power and the ability to interpret the laws that are before you when conditions arise that would make it a good idea for town citizens to be putting something like this forward. So there's a fundamental difference in the approach that I feel like I heard to private citizens coming to you with luxury requests as compared with someone who is coming to you who's been shown time and time again to be trying to make this work for people who just want to live here, not necessarily build pools or luxury vehicle garages. So it's my request on behalf of the young people trying to make a life here that you use that power to see this project move forward. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
We don't have the power to write these bylaws, to make them up or change them. We have the power to interpret them as they are. And that's our job.
I believe that's the
It's, you can't invent science.
Mr. Chair?
To address.
Wait a minute, Mr. Chair?
Jerry?
I think we've heard a lot, and there's a lot of good opinions from the board members. But I do think we need to hear from town council, because I don't know who's right, and if she says we're right in the middle of the fence, town council, we're in the middle of the fence, on top of the fence. But let's get a definitive decision, because the town planner didn't absolutely said no. He said if it was legal, which I don't believe it is, I'm repeating myself. I think we need legal opinion.
Is there any additional public comment that would people like to be made, ma'am?
Molly Moynihan, Hilton Avenue. I work at the Marine Biological Laboratory. I'm here with a lot of young community members, part of the workforce, and I just wanted to briefly touch on 2 points that I heard from the board. I heard the comment that we need more 2-bedroom housing. We need a lot of different types of housing. We need workforce housing that may be 2-bedroom houses, that may be studio apartments, that may be commercial housing. I know the Housing Planning Board has been working on putting a new plan together, and I think looking at that, we need a lot of different approaches. And that brings me to my second comment. I heard also the comment that this is a kind of out-of-the-box, too unique of a project to pass. We need unique solutions. We are in a unique town. We have scientists who are here year-round. We have workforce that needs to come here in the summertime. We have nurses, firefighters, policemen. All of these people are struggling to live here. And so these creative solutions and what Michael has been doing are exactly the types of things that we need to prioritize. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Any other public comments? Do you have something to follow up with, sir?
Yes. We talk a lot about town meeting, what town meeting has approved. So the town meeting approved the housing element of our comprehensive plan. In that housing element of the comprehensive plan, it actually addresses what we are trying to do here. creatively reuse existing buildings. It's also in the housing production plan. So we're following what has been approved by town meeting and in documents that have been approved by the town. That's how we as developers get our guidelines of what we should be doing, how we should be spending our time, how we should be spending our money. You know, we're not a big corporation. Myself, my partners who's here, we put up money out of our pocket. We're not some of the larger developers that come into town. These are our own funds that we use. We pick the projects that we think will be successful. That's why I toured everyone through that building early on. That's why we had a meeting in this room with every one of the departments of the town that our assistant town manager put together. Never heard any of those comments that I've heard here this evening or previously about this. All I've heard is good, positive comments. That's why you have 25 letters of support in your file, maybe even 30 now, of what people think in the community of this project. And there is ways for you to approve it. And maybe Kevin can talk more about that.
I certainly don't want to take up any more time than we need to, because much of what I would say has been said tonight. I believe the board can approve this. I believe the bylaw allows for it. I believe the exact definition of mixed-use development under the Mr. Cod definitions in the bylaw allows for this. That said, I'm certainly not opposed if the board wants to seek counsel or opinion from town council, if that's what's going to make members of the board more comfortable with the math that were presented. I have no objection to that, and would be open to a continuance for that purpose.
Anything else?
I think we've said, you know, I don't want to rehash over and over what has been said, but I think that this can and should be approved. But if getting an opinion of town council is what's going to move us closer to that, then I'm certainly happy for that to occur.
So I'm going to propose some board discussion first, of course, then we can come back to you, Mr. Clower. Anyone want to start?
I think it's a logical step. I'll admit, from my perspective, I would like to have council weigh in, and whether I'm interpreting, I can only speak for myself, whether my strict interpretation and/or the town planner and/or the building commissioner was incorrect. I would like some additional guidance to Jerry's point. So if council is acceptable, continuance is acceptable to me also, I think that that's a fair step. But again, to reiterate, the math doesn't make sense to me. I don't think you can count the land twice.
And I'm still waiting on mass housing. I want those units to count.
Tony.
Chairman, I would encourage this board to seek town council's opinion on this. I mean, I'd like to see this project or projects like this, but I think we can't move forward without town council's opinion on this.
Mark?
Yeah, we can go at it again, but the town council agreed with what was written by Jed and the building commissioner.
Frank?
Well, we have 7 people here, and they all think something different. And I think it's important that we, not just for us, but for the community, to know that we're doing our best to try and resolve this issue, because this is a very important project. And I would urge that we ask the town council to analyze the Mr. Cod bylaw and give us some direction as to the allowable density.
Jerry?
It's my suggestion, so I think it's great. I had one other thing. If we want to go there, Mr. Duffy had said, he doesn't even think they need to be here. Should we ask town council to weigh in on that?
So
Or is that part of the interpretation of the bylaw?
I think framing the issue is always very important for the, when you're asking of a legal opinion. I don't like people ask me broad questions, because.
Yeah. So is it appropriate, does the board think it's appropriate to say, do they need to be here?
The board has already exerted.
The board already
voted.
Oh, we voted, okay.
That issue is kind of moot.
We voted that down. But I think in terms of asking the question about density, the question should be, what is the permissible density under the bylaw? And not try and ask a question that directs a specific answer, but let the town council analyze the whole bylaw and give us an answer.
Just to, I don't want to rehash another hearing. Is the board, or would the board be agreeable regarding reduction in the number of parking spots if town council finds that what is proposed is permissible and permittable under a special permit? I just don't want to go through this again and then hit another stumbling block where people say, well, all right, but they got to come up with 35 parking spots or whatever the board
I thought the
feels.
parking plan he brought in tonight was good. Behind the Mariner
Just trying to get a
myself.
sense of what the issue
I-
is to make sure we don't keep coming back.
But the other two are weighing on me, the density and that we can't count the units.
Okay?
Yeah, we'll see what they have to say, but I think we're,
Let's start with the density, and if
Okay.
more
With the
more questions
density.
come up, we can go
That's the
back
biggest-
again if we have to.
All right, so the specific question, just to make sure we've got it communicated to town council. Is the proposed density permissible under the Mr. Cod bylaw?
Yeah, I think, again, density is critical for me. I think that you've made good strides on the parking side. The project is great, I can't get it here from my head, so I'd love to see council. I appreciate your diligence.
Noreen, I
too.
believe Suzanne has just to make sure
The
that,
question on the separation, on how to get the units to count.
Condominium ownership.
I mean, Ms. Murphy, I think
I don't think
that,
town council's gonna be able to
They can't
opine on
address
that,
it.
that's
Okay.
related to
Well,
the
he told me
state.
to ask town council, so.
Excuse me. The reason why I said that is that during the conference call with the state, Assistant Town Council made a comment that that wasn't a question for this board to ask a state agency. That's what he said. I don't know why, I don't know, but I'm just telling you what was said during the conference.
The planning board's decision also requires the 26 units to be on SHI.
Yes. We can make that a condition.
I think a
if we approve
condition,
it.
I think a condition of this board to that, if this board is able to
Sorry, it
approve
was a
this.
condition, yes.
I think conditioning it has the same effect of what you're looking for, Ms. Murphy.
We'll see.
so realistically, in terms of a continuance, to give town council enough time to analyze this and get back to us.
So we'd be looking at March 28th.
That's how we expedite affordable housing.
But realistically, next year is the 15th, and then it'll be the Saxon partners, so.
Yeah, I mean, the problem, we do have a meeting before that, but we have a very heavy agenda. And I don't think anybody's looking to meet until midnight, so we're just trying to.
I will, really, all due respect to my client, I will say that March 28th would be great.
Hey, is that a motion to continue?
Motion to continue to March 28th.
Second? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Thank you.
Thank you all for your time. I know this has been a number of hearings, and I appreciate the diligence and thoughtfulness that's being put into this.
Excuse me. Did you second that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. I kind of whispered it. I
That's the
apologize.
end of continuations and new hearings. We have open meeting. First up, voting minutes, February 1, 2024, February 1, 2024, executive session, and February 15th. What are we
We're
tabling?
tabling the 15th.
So this will just be the minutes of February 1 and February 1, 2024's executive session. Has everyone had opportunity to review the minutes?
Excuse me, with the noise in the room, I'm not quite
Well,
sure
wait a
I
minute.
heard what you said.
We can just wait a
No,
second.
wait a second. So we're going to be tabling the minutes of February 15th, looking to approve the minutes of February 1, 2024, and the executive session minutes of February 1, 2024. Has everyone had opportunity to review those minutes?
Do we have to roll call the executive?
Yes, I believe we
I think we do, don't we? Do we have to roll call the executive?
Oh, if you want to, so the board did review them, but it was a question about whether you were willing to
Yeah, I was
release
going to say,
them
they
or
were
not.
approved, it's whether we're going to release.
I don't
So-
think you have
I think we
to
should.
do a roll call. If you vote executive session minutes in open session, you don't have to do a roll call.
Okay,
And,
I wasn't sure.
but you don't discuss what's in the minutes, you
Right.
just approve them.
Okay. I just wasn't sure if we had to roll call the vote.
And they've been approved. Yeah, it's just a question now to whether we're going to authorize release. Well, let's start with the regular minutes of February 1, 2024. Has everyone had opportunity to review? Any additions or corrections?
Nope.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve February 21st.
Second, give that to Suzanne. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right. We've previously approved the executive session minutes of February 1, 2024. Is there anyone who wants to release them at this time? I'm inclined to say no.
No.
It's still too early.
Doesn't even look like there's a motion. Moving on. Number 2, request for insubstantial change, modification of comprehensive permit number 06320 et al. Levy, trustee of 3 Kendall Lane, Falmouth. Maureen?
So the board probably recalls that we've had a couple of previous requests to finish space in the basement on the Kendall Lane 40B development. This is in line with those prior requests. It's 3 Kendall Lane. They are looking to modify their basement space. So they want to add a full bathroom, a yoga room, a gym room, plus an unfinished mechanical room. They state that there will be no bedrooms in the basement and no cooking in the basement. So it's basically, the request is in line with what the board has approved before.
What are the encasements like on the rooms?
The rooms are open with the exception of the office space.
And that's okay with the bedroom count and everything?
Shouldn't it have a
Yeah,
4-foot case?
Has the Board of Health weighed in if this meets the definition of a bedroom?
They use Title V to do it. 70
they're-
square feet.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're basically, the Board of Health is primarily looking at the designation of the room.
Are they in the sewer?
Can I just say, I mean, the Board of Health has used Title V definition of a room, 70 square feet, has a door, reasonable privacy, has a window, has power and heat. If that room has all of that, according to Title V, then it's a bedroom.
Needs a cased opening.
Yeah, well, I think
That's
the
why
other
it has to
part
both be
too is that
open.
where these are basement rooms, the windows are a smaller style, so the window may not be sufficient to meet the Board of Health requirements
say-
either.
You mean
It says anything, you don't,
Tony?
It doesn't say that way. It says has light, has window. It doesn't say if it's fire
So an
approved.
egress.
It's just an egress. It doesn't talk to that. So it's considered a bedroom if it has reasonable privacy.
So we've done these before, to approve as insubstantial.
I don't remember adding rooms, though.
Yeah, going forward, we need to, I just want to make sure we tighten up our decisions about this issue, because there's just a constant slow creep.
yeah. Now, did the original comprehensive permit also specify no sleeping in the lofts? So obviously, there's no sleeping, and it should have a cased opening.
Just for the board's,
It's closed,
we previously approved this type of modification as insubstantial, correct?
but it didn't have,
I think
it was, they were open.
This is adding 3 rooms, a
Yeah.
bathroom, what was the?
Yeah.
Yoga room,
Yoga,
a gym room,
gym,
yeah,
and bathroom.
full bath, yeah.
So that's adding, that's.
Yeah. The other one was like a gym. It was open. They weren't closed rooms.
It was just,
Yeah, so those, the yoga room and the gym room have cased openings, the office does not. We could certainly condition that you require that.
Oh, we can put a condition on this?
No.
I'm uncomfortable with multiple rooms,
Yeah.
because we
I
all
didn't
know
it was
which,
that much.
the slow creep, as Jim
I'm
said.
just seeing a bedroom, I'd like to see, I think they need to, I mean, I don't have the definition of insubstantial, but I believe anything that could increase the potential bedroom count is not insubstantial.
Yeah, yeah, because you got 3 bedrooms, you add 1 more, that's 25%.
Do you have the definition,
30%.
do you have the CMRs right there, Noreen? Could you pull them up, about what the definition is?
And you want the definition for?
Insubstantial change.
They have it here.
Yeah, it's pretty broad. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's a percentage.
10% though.
Right.
It's 10%. And if you're adding a room, which could potentially be a bedroom, you're over
The
10%.
10% though, I think is increasing the
No,
total
that's-
number of
Yeah,
units.
it's total number of units. It's not in one home. So this would not fall under a substantial change per,
Comprehensive permit, it doesn't.
Oh, throw it in two potential bedrooms?
It takes a lot for substantial, though, like a real lot.
Well, we haven't had any, they've all been like open
Open room.
basements,
Or
like a
shed.
finished basement, you know? I mean, we haven't had one like this yet.
So the question I've got is, my hang-up is gonna be the definition of bedroom, number, and whether or not a health issue, if it's going to be permissible or not. So I guess the question is, even if we approve this, does Board of Health still gonna be able to say, before a building permit is issued, to say, no, this is not permissible? Or you need to have cased openings, or just finish the basement off as one large room and then put a bathroom in, and a mechanical space? I'm,
That's what, we've done two of these, right? And they were both a large room with a bathroom.
right.
There've been no
There
individual.
were no individual rooms.
I don't like it personally.
Well, I share your sentiments, I just want to, I mean,
Frank, what's your thoughts?
I see, this is a problem that's gonna just keep coming, because these 40Bs, the market rate units are so expensive that the only people who are gonna buy them are people who wanna move in and immediately change the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we're gonna see this all the time.
or they're investment properties, they're going to
Yes.
be rented out, they want as
Right.
many bedrooms
This
as
is-
possible.
Yeah, this wouldn't happen if the market rate units were more moderately priced, but
Right.
it's not
You
what's
are right.
happening.
Yeah, I'm okay with the bathroom, and I'm okay with one large room, but
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
is getting
absolutely.
just cut up a little too
That's
much.
where you lose me after that.
So,
Put up one of those office barriers that, portable wall.
What are our options? Can we continue this, or do we have to deny it and go to a public hearing?
No, I think we let Noreen do some homework, and
Yeah, why don't we continue it
Yeah.
and get the definitions anyway, because
is that okay with you?
this is,
yeah, I think.
I mean, it won't take us that long to do.
Bring it up maybe at the next meeting, and I
All right.
can get the answers for you.
I'm going to move to
I-
continue.
I do know that
second that.
the two rooms, the yoga and the gym, are both having cased openings. Those are essentially, while they're framed in, they're open. You just have that one room that's.
it's almost like if I have a gym, why can't I have a yoga in the same room?
Can I just say something, Mr. Chairman? Just because it's cased doesn't mean you can't put a door on it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What we did, what this board has done, I wasn't on the board, what this board has done before, it said it has to be cased but 4 feet wide.
Right.
That still doesn't stop somebody from putting a door on.
Put those
Any carpenter could do
doors
that.
up now. Yeah.
I think that you have to find, I think there's a problem with the whole situation, that you cannot, just because you put a cased opening in, say, well, it's not gonna be a bedroom now. You have to condition that it's not a bedroom, and then someone has to check it.
It's a yoga
Check.
bedroom,
Yeah.
library, yoga bedroom, library bedroom.
Do you have a suggested continuation date, Noreen?
Well, your next meeting is March 7,
That's the 40B, though.
right? March
Nope.
14?
I think that's appropriate. So the next meeting here, regular agenda meeting, so I'm going to move to continue to March 14th.
Second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That's
Are we
continued.
gonna meet, on the 7th, we have the Sandwich Road.
Correct.
Yes.
And then on the 14th, we will have regular business here. Are we gonna meet on the 21st?
21st off.
Yes,
28.
that will be the next Sandwich Road.
So we're gonna do Sandwich Road on the 21st and the 7th and the 21st, okay?
It's then in April. there's-
28th, you got a busy month.
Yeah.
We do. Board discussion.
We need a raise.
I was going to bring up an under-board discussion that we let the administrator do these insubstantial changes, but then we got one that's
No,
not even kind of like that.
it's kind of got to see the light
So,
of day.
yeah, we have to get
They're
through
gonna-
this one at least first. I
Well, we
think.
could, in her opinion, if it should come in front of us, but, that,
That's true. She could use, like if we did have a shed, like we've done a shed,
Do we want to add this as a future agenda item towards the
Yes,
end of the month
yeah.
to have a discussion and?
Yeah,
well,
let's do it
and
that
we're going
way.
to authorize the zoning administrator if
I
and
mean,
when.
unless Noreen doesn't want that.
Well, that's going to be the other question.
That's
When we
fine.
start delegating.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
All right. Would you suggest the 14th or the 21st, or
Have to be the 28th, 21st is
Yeah,
Sandwich
probably
Road again.
28th.
20?
Yeah.
Thank you. You are now the chair secretary.
What much?
Board updates.
After that, it'll be April. How's that for an update?
Future agenda items.
Next week, Lawrence.
Yep. All right, so next meeting will be March 7th, 2024, 6 PM at the Lawrence School Auditorium, 113 Lakeview Avenue, Falmouth. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Fenner, is there a second? And any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. It is 8:30, we're adjourned.